always good. It's always chosen. It's always chosen. And always black.
Yay. Okay, perfect. Everybody, it is your girl, Joi Has Questions. I am back. I have really had time to like just sit back and think and be like, okay, are we about to do this? And there is no one else that I wanted to be the first guest for season 3 as I'm coming back from hiatus than Mrs. Amber Marine Green herself. So hi, love. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for thinking of me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ashay. Thank you.
Oh, girl, don't hit me with the ancestral language. Like, you know, that's like gonna make me cry. But no, I'm super excited to have you here. We are going to jump right into it. Like, I know you and love you and everything that you do for the community and the culture, but I want you to tell the people, like, what is it if you had to define yourself? And I know how you are super sought after, booked and busy, but how would you define like what it is that you do?
I consider myself a digital storyteller. A digital storyteller. I think I've been gifted the responsibility to capture everyday people and lives through my camera. I love people. I'm one of those. I love to go to mom and pop shops or cafes outdoors and people watch, you know, and just, I wonder where she's going. I wonder what he's thinking. I wonder why he's moving so aggressively. I wonder what just happened. I wonder why she's looking bad. I wonder, everybody has a story. And maybe because I'm just nosy, but I love telling people stories. They're true, authentic story.
I completely understand that, especially many a days I would like run into you at Sip and Savor. Shout out Trez, hey. But I would like run into Sip and Savor, just be like, hey, girl. And we literally be sitting there like people watching, getting work done. So I completely can attest to see you in the action doing that.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about how you developed your love of being this digital storyteller, of being, you know, one of the most sought after photographers in the city, what was it that really helped you develop your creative eye or start that path, start you down that road, if you will?
It's very interesting. So in another lifetime, I worked in the dental field, like for 15 years. My mother was the office manager of a dental office. So I remember just growing up when my mother had to take me to work with her. I'm under the office, like under the desk, but I end up becoming on training dental assistant, like literally the irony, because I just had dental work done, you know, assisting with the oral surgeon in extractions and fill-ins and root canals to running a dental office. I was the office manager. But even at that moment, I wasn't content. And one day, the office that I was very comfortable at, I was comfortable making $16 an hour. This was 8 years ago.
Oh, that was a thing. Yeah, that was a thing to be had.
And so I was comfortable. I had a young son. My son was very young. And then the office, the dentist sold the practice. Mm. And because I was the highest paid in the office, that I remember they came in and just cut my hours just in half. And so imagine I'm checking in patients and I'm fighting back tears. And this is what changed my trajectory. I heard the men, it was men, that their race was white, Asian, and Indian. Mm-hmm. And I heard them in the back. And here I am fighting back tears like, oh my God, how am I going to take care of my son? How am I going to pay my rent? I'm a single mom. I'm hearing them laughing, joking about what they're going to wear to Lollapalooza.
The triggers. You about to sit here and throw all the toothpaste in the air, be like, I hate everyone. And I'm like, girl, it's a regular Friday.
And so here I am scared about my livelihood. And they're thinking about what they're going to wear to Lollapalooza. And if that doesn't paint a picture of how I decide, I didn't know how at that moment, I was never going to put my destiny in another person's hands. I don't know how. And I remember going home crying and I saw a Kodak commercial. Think how old that was, Kodak. I saw a Kodak commercial. And I'm like, I always had a love for photography. You know, wow, maybe I should go for it. So I just started Googling classes for digital photography. I still had to work. All the classes were smack dab in the middle of the day. And so, excuse if you hear noises, I have 2 cats.
Oh, you're fine. Okay.
And so I took a leap of faith. I went to a pawn shop. I saw a camera I wanted, and I used my rent money to buy a used camera. And I remember my mom cussed me out because, of course, I had to borrow the rent money. But because of YouTube University, because I couldn't go to class, and that camera, I just started going around taking photos, just teaching myself. Do you know that Facebook page, Humans of New York?
Yes. I saw some of the best stories of it. Like, who was the stripper who had lived 1,000 lives?
Yes. So I was already inspired by them. So then I started going around taking pictures of homeless people. I don't know how. I was just going around taking pictures, and I met this homeless guy, and I took his photo, and I just asked him, what happened? And he started telling me a story. And so I started transcribing it. So then I created a Facebook page called Chicago Souls. So then I started intentionally taking photos of homeless people and transcribing their stories, inspired by Humans of New York. And then, but people who started following my page realized whatever preconceived notion they had of homeless people was false. A lot of people were homeless due to gentrification, war veterans, not getting the proper resources, mental health institutions being demolished, domestic violence victims. It was alcoholism across the board. Every story wasn't the same.
Exactly. And I think, not even to cut you off, but I think you just hit on two really important things. You didn't walk out your house and say, I want to take a picture of me giving a homeless person a sandwich. It wasn't something where you were doing it for your own gratification or to make someone look like, someone that is almost like in a zoo-like setting. It's why are you taking pictures and they're kind of in a low moment, but you were bringing back their humanity and attaching the story to show or to destigmatize the fact, look, people didn't just walk out their house one day and say, F this, I'm never paying another bill again. Everyone's story is different in terms of the peaks and valleys that happen in their life. So I completely commend you for highlighting that and for literally walking by faith. Because a lot of people will just say God's going to work it out for me. When you take that rent check, that's a different type of, no, I'm going to make it come hell or high water.
Think about it. I'm a single mother. I have a kid. I still don't even know what was going on through my head, but I took my rent money, sis. Risked me and my son's livelihood. But
you invested.
I just heard
your son's livelihood.
I heard I was put on this earth to do more. I just heard it, and it wouldn't go away. If we don't
see the benefits though of it, that's to see literally the progression of how you have, kept investing in yourself and kept betting on yourself. And I think that is the reason why you're rewarded and why people respect you so much and want to interact with you, because people have seen that journey, and the fact of you go at it with such a pure heart. And that's literally one of the things that even I wanted to touch on. Just, we all know 2020, I'm going to be sitting there in the rocking chair if climate control ain't, got us first. Cause I heard it ain't even snowed in Chicago yet. I'm oh, okay.
Actually 60-some degrees yesterday. I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of scared what we're about to embark on for January and February.
60 degrees in Chicago?
In December.
Oh, that's shorts weather to be running on the lakefront. That.
Hold on. None of us.
Because, especially white people love doing that baseball cap with the sandals and the
shorts. I saw shorts.
And the windbreaker. I'm you ain't scared of nothing. Okay. But no, getting back to you. So looking at the fact of how, yes, 2020 took us to the tip top of insanity. None of us have experienced what it is to continuously be in a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic like this, which, the Omicron, the variant is giving Delta a run for her money. It's every new day is a new variant. But on top of that, people were making critical decisions of do I go outside and now also partake in, raising hell as we should based on the continued dehumanization of Black bodies, and it wasn't even just a thing of oh, there's George Floyd. those were the ones we knew about, because Lord knows the ones that haven't still been brought, to everyone's attention. So you had like literally this like mountaintop of like, if it's not hitting us from one way, it's hitting us from another. And I remember seeing you like just being out there in the streets and photographing what was happening in the protests and people coming together to raise their voice. And this picture that I looked up one day and I was like, man, this is like one of the most iconic, impactful pictures I've ever seen. And then I looked up and it was everywhere. Like it was completely picked up by like national, international news medias. But a year later, what does that image, of that Black mother with her baby, her infant son, like this, he had to be no more than like a year, I presume.
Yeah, a year old.
The year. What does that do for you like a year later, like reflecting and looking back on just the impact of that?
It's about to make me tear up. Because I was in the community. You mentioned sip and savor, right? Mm. So I have learned, I realize I'm an introvert. I know a lot of people, but I'm very content by myself. But going to sip and savor, having people in the community hire me, have afforded me really good relationships. Specifically, one woman, I don't know if you know, her name is Elle. I remember it was like 4:00 in the morning, and when all the protest was happening around George Floyd. And I wanted to go out there with my camera, and it's going to sound real selfish, but I'm like, I don't want to go out there if something happens to my camera. Like literally, I'm like, this is my bread and butter. Like even with not Trayvon Martin, who was the gentleman who got shot 17 times.
I know. Freddie Gray. Oh, okay. 16 shots. Yes, in Chicago.
I wanted to go out and take photos, but I was scared to. And so at 4:00 in the morning, I'm sitting on the couch like, I know I need to go out there. But I'm like, if something happens, if something happens with my camera, I can't make money. Elle, who I met through the community, who goes to Sip and Savor all the time, I randomly get a text from her. We don't talk on a regular basis. And I get a text. She said, Amber, God told me to tell you need to go out there with your camera. This was like at 5, like an hour later. And I just simply said, okay. I called Matt Julian. I said, hey, do you want to go out, just document what's going on? I hear there's a protest forming. He said, sure. So we go out there. And it was quite interesting because the protest that was specifically organized, I noticed I didn't see us. A lot of people that was gathering was from the LGBT community, who was mostly white, from the Hispanic community, white protesters, which was very interesting because if you look at mass media, who's causing the ruckus, you only see Black folk.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. They broke into the Burberry store.
So I noticed that none of the protesters looked like us. And I also noticed a lot of the antagonizers who was literally antagonizing the police officers who was just standing there to create a barricade. The antagonizers didn't look like us either. But anyways, as the crowd started forming, I saw a lot of cars started honking solidarity. And so I decided I want to shoot with my camera, and I turn around and I see this mother bawling, holding her baby bawling. And just in an instant, I just really quick, but then I started crying and she looked at me and, they drove by. And so, you notice I started just posting photos just to tell the story, what I saw. And then all of a sudden I saw 1 share, then 100 shares. Then the next day, 250,000 shares.
Whoa.
And all of a sudden I started getting emails from Good Morning America, The Today Show, Tamron Hall. And I'm just like, to the point where I couldn't even look at my social media. I was so overwhelmed. Yeah. So it actually, I didn't feel comfortable. Because as a photographer, we like to be, there's a reason you see creative directors
exactly
behind the scenes. And so I started getting overwhelmed and started getting really emotional. And so a year later, can I be honest? I'm trying to get back to that Amber that went out there and took that photo, because like you said, I'm sought out for, and I love taking photos, portraits, family portraits, headshots, branding shots. But my first love is photojournalism.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't Photoshop the truth. You can't edit the truth. That the truth doesn't need color correction. The truth, whatever comes out my camera is what's supposed to be seen. And I think as I started getting busy, like you said, booked and busy, I kind of got away from that. So I'm so glad you brought that up. A year later, I am going back, finding my way back to my purpose.
There's so much even in that. Just the fact of, number one, it was this fleeting moment, so truly in the blink of an eye, something can happen that changes the trajectory of how people perceive you, can put you now on the front line because everyone's looking like, oh, they want to know more about who is she? Like, how did this photo come to be? You said you were overwhelmed by social media and just the response of it. And I think that's something we don't talk enough about. It's the fact of like when we're in the day-to-day of our lives and being that kind of behind the scene person, and then for whatever reason you get thrust into the forefront, like it's not natural to just like go from one day you're talking to your immediate circle, or you going in there and just getting your regular cup of joe or whatever it is, your daily routine. And then the next day you are catapulted to like the top level of like inquiries and questions and probing. And that is something that can be jolting, especially because it's like you haven't experienced that before. So I think it's definitely something to be said about how it takes a while to get back. And there's nothing wrong with it being a slower process, a quicker process. It's subjective. And I just take your time. And even if that means I may not be specifically that person again, it's the evolution of who you're becoming, and taking all those steps and being like, yo, like, this is a moment that changed me. I don't know if I'll get back there, but regardless, I'm appreciative of it and I'm continuing forward.
But you want to hear something? I don't know if you followed the story. So the young one, we found out the young woman and that baby was sleeping in that car.
What?
They were homeless.
I never knew that aspect of the story, because that's like you saw it from the one perspective of people focusing on what it meant in terms of the movement.
So her son and her mother were sleeping in that car. So let's go back to community. Phil, Elle, and some of the other people I reached out to found out that she was homeless. My mentor, Phil, called a friend and got them a hotel at South Loop Hotel for a week. Do you know 5 Loaves?
Yeah. Oh, I missed that.
5 Loaves for the whole week brought them breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
It just reminds you when you get past, and this is the thing that I wish people really, truly understood about Chicago, the stuff that gets put out there is not the heart of Blackness and the heart of community. Because it's like, we go hard for ours, and we do mobilize and we do come together. And that's the thing where it's just like these type of stories, we have to keep telling them. We have to serve as these griots for what is the true heart of Chicago and the true heart of specifically Black Chicago. Because if we aren't doing that, the perception will be that it's just OK Corral and everyday people getting jacked and good God, it's just crack in the streets and like we're scared. We can't go outside our doors. And I'm like, that is not the totality of the city. And it's not even accurate. Like we don't, you've continued to mention this when you were talking about the veterans, you were talking about like the home compromised population. Like these are people that were failed by the system that are supposed to be supported. If you're a veteran coming back from a war mindset, of course you are out your mind. And it is going to take a lot of rehabilitation if you're not so far gone to the point that, you have to kind of cope or you're permanently, I should say, going to have like postpartum depression or other issues, I should say, that happen from being in that environment, you do need continued support. So if you keep divesting from the VA hospital, then yes, you're going to have a bunch of people on the street corner look like they having conversations with themselves when they lost their mind for serving their country.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think even with this young woman, and don't have to go into the personals of her business or whatever led her and her family unit to that point, but to know that in that moment, like the branches of what that picture had, beyond like the promotion that it gave you to tell a story, but to actually impact somebody's life, that to me is really beautiful and shows like just the magnitude of when you're going into something pure-hearted. So to you, Five Loaves, everybody, like, I salute y'all.
I mean, what's the coincidence, which I don't believe a coincidence. I mean, because at the time I took the photo, I mean, it was thousands of people protesting, screaming, and literally in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where then now she went from sleeping in that car to in a hotel room to being fed to now she, was able to help her create a GoFundMe so they can get a plate. Like, that is not a coincidence.
Yeah. And I think that shows like how you're being used and on those moments when it's hard to continue to keep going. But speaking of that, because, okay, that's great. We're highlighting like the fact of like, this is what I love to do. And these are some of the moments that have like catapulted my career or moved me in a certain direction. But let's be real. There are days where, yes, no matter what you're doing and how much you love it, you sitting on the couch being like, I'm not with this shit. I'm tired. I don't feel like it. Or you have to fight to find the passion in it. Like, has there ever been a moment for you where you were just like, I don't know if it was worth me leaving my job, risking my rent money? And how have you gotten back then to finding the love of photojournalism or capturing these moments?
2 moments. I didn't get a chance to say I was blessed to find a mentor. When I tell anybody, if you can try to find a mentor who has done what you're trying to do or who is doing what you're trying to do. When I got into photography, I knew I couldn't go to school. So I started Googling all these photographers. Most of them were white. None of them wanted to take me under their wing, except a Black man. His name is Daryl Hammond. He taught me everything I knew. And at one point, a couple years in, obviously things are not going to start the way you want. And I quit. I quit for like 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I remember one day he texted me. He said, all right, he calls me Amps. He was like, all right, Amps. I remember, all right, Amps, pick the camera back up. He gave me the space to fill my bills or pity pot, whatever. He's like, okay, pick the camera back up. You have to attract and cultivate your tribe. But also, too, with mentorship, it has to be reciprocity. Mm-hmm. This person is giving you free information that's way better than going to a school, but you have to give some type of energy back. And then the second time was actually this year. This summer, I had a mental break, and I've been more transparent about it. I was going through healing from heartbreak. Also, too, I was so booked and busy and so sought out for that my passion really turned into a business that I wasn't enjoying. Mm. Because if I had my wish, which I'm still manifesting, I just love to shoot. I just want to shoot, and whatever comes out of my camera is going to teach the world. But when you're doing more so portraits and editorials, there's pre-production and post-production. I got so busy I had to hire an editor. And I started getting a lot, and I love my clients, but I started getting, and it goes back to conditioning. I started getting more requests like, well, can you make my waist smaller? Can you make my skin and the more and more I started getting either those complaints or requests, I was like, this is not why I picked up the camera.
This isn't telling the truth anymore. This is me like feeding into someone's like specific. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was and I was tired. I was burnt out. I literally was jet setting. I was flying literally from I was in 4 different cities and another country within 10 days. And
not only that, you have a child, like you said,
who I was neglecting. I can say this. I was neglecting, let alone neglecting myself. because of the whole, I'm a boss bitch, I'm booked and busy, we catching flights, not feelings, get the bag, girl, entrepreneur her. Like this whole culture that I didn't realize, even though I didn't subscribe to, I was buying into, because that's all you see, right?
And if you're not doing that, then you're not being successful.
Exactly.
Because if you ain't tell nobody, it ain't happen. If you ain't standing there in the Loewe belt in a desert scene, or you know, every year somebody got that special trip, or if you ain't one of the 1,000 people that went to Tulum this year, like, I don't know what you did with your 2021.
And I taught that. I actually was a media director for one of the largest Black-owned tech incubators, and I have to say this: I spearheaded a team of 12 men, and I say that is because I wasn't a boss bitch, I wasn't the head bitch in charge. I was operating my femininity, but I was teaching them about emotional intelligence. You know, but I realized I wasn't, and I taught them about propaganda. So what is propaganda? Propaganda is information pumped into our subconscious over and over and over again till we start believing it, even though it's never been proven to be fact. Regarding this whole, especially, I guess, specifically for women, this whole culture of women empowerment, boss babes, you know,
girl CEO,
and the power posing and stuff like that, or God forbid you tell the truth that you might get canceled. I didn't realize I was drinking the Kool-Aid. Mm-hmm. So I burnt out. I was jet setting. I had clients in Atlanta and then flew to Cancun. Then I was, you know, all over the place. And when I got home, I cried and bawled. And I'm like, I don't want to look at this fucking camera. My work started getting bad. You know, this year was the first year I had to give out refunds. And I think I probably gave back out $6,000 for the refunds because my work declined. My work wasn't at its best. I was just taking every gig that came my way.
And that's the thing, like, and not, I don't know who like the subject matters were that, or everyone who was coming, but it's true, like, all money ain't good money. And it doesn't mean in the sense that the people that are giving the money like are scammers or scandalous. It's not even necessarily that. It's like, if it's getting you to a place where you can't even add 2 + 2, you can't see the joy, you can't find the passion again, then it ain't good money. Like, I couldn't, for me, I knew I was at that point. I had this 6-figure job. I'm, you know, living in Hyde Park. I'm traveling. I'm doing all this stuff. And I had turned into a complete little butterball. And I'm not saying that in the sense of like, oh, I'm not body positive. Look, at this point, you're going to get these dividends and this poo pot or get the hell up out my face. I'm not out here trying to be something for a million people. But I wasn't helped. I was so unhappy. And I was ticking off every box of who I was supposed to be in that moment and hated my job.
Supposed to be.
Couldn't stand the job. Did it. I was eating to cope. And it's just like, you get to this place of being like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. And ironically enough, we both got a Mac story because like I was down to like my last 1,500. And I had always wanted to tell this story of like Vivian G. Harsh. And I remember, you know, she was like the first Black librarian for the city of Chicago. She built the George C. Hall branch to be like one of the most preeminent spaces to keep like Black literature. She was Richard Wright's mentor. Like, she was everything. And I remember sitting there, like, I took my last 1,500. I was like, all right, Matt, I need you to help me just like put together like a little reel for like a little quick history show and learning about her. And literally that is what got me hired by my job. A job now that I actually love, you know, because I'm telling Black stories and I'm focusing on what it is that ties into my actual core of myself. I'm not trying to like hide myself away from my job, if that makes sense. And I think that's something that's so important. You have to lead with what the fuck you love, because no amount of money is going to make up for your soul feeling depleted, for you feeling unhappy, for you feeling like, fuck all of this. So yes, it gets to that point where you're just like,
fuck this. I'm like, this money, this fame, whatever, is not keeping me warm at night. It's not raising my son or giving my son the emotional and nurturing time he needs. It's definitely, like you said, I was gaining weight. I wasn't feeling my best. And I took some time off this summer. Like, I didn't shoot for a couple months, and I went and I started living. Like, I became a plant mom. I became a cat mom. I started, just going out and enjoying life. I, started getting therapy. I started working out. I got a trainer. I got a spiritual advisor. And I realized, holy shit, I have some trauma.
mm-hmm.
Healing. I had to do some self-reflection. A lot of the chaos in my life was self-inflicted. Nobody wants to talk about that.
Sometimes it's you. It's not. You know what's that IG mirror to be like, is it me? Am I the drama? Like, yeah, sometimes you are.
It's you. And now, it's funny because, I'm back to shooting, but, I don't know if you notice, I don't really market photography as much anymore, because photography is what I do, is not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I have let go of I realized a lot of relationships in my life were solely transactional. A lot of people position themselves close to me because of who I am, what I do, what I get, or what they thought. And so a lot of relationships just fizzled away.
Don't it feel good though? After you get out of the pain of the moment, me and my little 4 friends are just so happy. Because it's like, I don't have the time or the space to be around nobody that wants to be around me for what it is that I offer. Mm-hmm. And when they feel I don't offer that, now my value is less. And I find, I had just put this as a LinkedIn post, but it's really how I be feeling. Don't ask me what I do.
Yeah. Don't
ask me what I do. Ask me what I'm passionate about, or ask me what drives me. You ask me what I do. And hell, some days I just be making up shit. I'm a scammer. I be on Bitcoin. Like, I'll just say some crazy shit too. Don't ask me about my profession. Cause I'm like, as much as I love my job, that should not define you.
At all. But I notice now that my quality of life has skyrocketed. The relationships, my tribe, is feeding each other. The quality of men I'm dating, because I am single, but the quality of men that are asking me out and the type of dates and time I spend are completely better.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem of saying who I am, where I'm at, and what I am, manifesting. But it took me to sit the fuck down and realize I literally hid behind photography. Mm-hmm. because hiding behind photography, I didn't have to look at Amber. I didn't have to look at the woman who had codependency issues, rejection issues, abandonment issues, savior complex. And once I put the camera down, I had to look at Amber in the face. I'm like, all right, I got work to do.
Girl. Woo, okay. I can't wait to come back to Chicago. We're going to go get some drinks. But I completely understand that from the perspective of Black women. And you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it's like, we always got to be every fucking thing to every fucking body. And I'm at the point now where I'm just like, I know I don't have to be that, but it is still a fight at times for me to remember I don't have to be that. The shortest sentence in the human language is no.
No.
You don't have to qualify it. You ain't got to add any because, or maybe I can. If I fucking said no, that's what I mean. And it's between you and your God to work out what that means for you. But I'm saying no. And you don't have to do it. It doesn't mean that you hate the person or you're being vindictive, but you've got to save some space for you. And you were hiding behind the camera. A lot of times, like, a brand is a protection. Because you can, like, when to turn it on, what people are expecting when they see you in this light, literally. So it's just like, to be able to put that down and be like, what do I need to do so that if I ever pick this camera back up again, I ever pick this brand up back again, I know how to set my boundaries and protect myself and do the work. Now I sound like a yalla, but it's true. Like you have to
boundaries in every aspect of my life. Mm-hmm. Every aspect of my life. And once I started, and it sounds like after school special, but when we say love yourself, I realized I needed to love myself like I love my son. So think about, for people who have children or pets or something or someone they really covet. So as a mother, right, I am a lioness when it comes to my child. I will not let nobody talk to my son a certain way. I will not, I make sure, he doesn't harm himself. I make sure he loves on himself. Did you take a shower, do your hair? But I wasn't loving myself that way. I was, allowing men to treat me a certain way. I was allowing women, female friends to treat me a certain way. And I'm like, why am I loving my son to the epitome of just unconditional love? And I'm not doing that for myself. Why do we do that? And then when I started loving myself more, forgiving myself easily, giving myself grace, it literally is so easy now for every part of my relationship to treat people the same way. I'm quick to forgive people, but I'm quick to also set boundaries because I set boundaries. I would not let nobody come in my son sideways anymore. So I'm treating myself the same way. Yeah, you hurt me and I forgive you. I have compassion, but this is where the line is now drawn in the sand.
Tupac said it best. I want to see you eat. You just can't eat at my table. Like, I love you and you still gonna stay where you at. Mm-hmm. Because think about it. Also at the same time, it's unfair if you doing the work, but you around a bunch of unhealed people. So it's like, I'm supposed to beta block everybody's bullshit? No, like,
you know what? And not to get deep, but I'm a voracious reader. I read a lot, like 48 Laws of Power, Law of Attraction. I read The Secret, The Alchemist. We have to be mindful of our law of attraction. Mm-hmm. Well, like for example, I realized all my exes were emotionally unavailable, but because I intentionally chose emotionally unavailable men because of issues I had with my dad. So now that I have, healed from that, had the conversation with my dad and now know what it is, emotionally unavailable men are no longer my law of attraction. Mm-hmm. And so you see how it all goes back to us and self-accountability of what is not healed, and because of that now, when I do have like consultations with clients, it's like sister to sister or human being. And I don't book every client. I have boundaries now. I know it's not going to be a good fit. Mm-hmm. Work together. I refer them to another photographer. But it's rare though, because I realize I have set the tone, what type of person I am, what type of work I do, how I conduct it, and what's the expectations from them. But that I had to put the camera down and look at myself. Amber, you ain't no damn victim.
And also, you don't have to save everybody. Like, it's impossible to save everybody if you can't save your damn self. Like, so I think that's really a beautiful lesson to see, like, how you've been setting those boundaries and taking that space so that you can get back to what it is that you love. Now, everybody know I'm Chicago as they come. You are as well. I'm not there. I don't know how I've been gone this long and like still kept my sanity, but we're here now. But still to see the continue, and I catch it a lot now when people find out I'm from Chicago. They're like, oh my God. I'm like, I said Chicago, not, 1942 Germany. Like, what the fuck? Like, what is wrong with y'all? How have you been able to use your passion, your artwork as being a digital storyteller to combat the negative portrayal of the city, but also that of Blackness? Because, I went onto your site and I know, especially like photographer sites, they're constantly in a state of evolution because you're constantly putting work up. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I loved was just to see all the smiling faces, like, and the beautiful Black little boys and girls. I was like, oh, my babies, So how do you use your artwork as a way to be like a middle finger, basically, to anybody who's like, well, Black people or Black Chicago just can't get it together?
I forgot who said this, so don't give me lying, but I am the master of my own destiny.
I'm the captain of my soul. Wait, hold up. I know. Hold on. It's the captain, my captain. It's
yeah.
Okay, go.
So I have learned we literally have the power to create the type of life we want. And in my mind, in Amber world, ain't nothing but happy Black people. Ain't nothing but happy Black people color. In Amber world, if you come to Amber world, you are going to see happy people, thriving people, abundant people. My spiritual advisor told me something. She drills in it to me sometimes, especially when I get down. Don't look at what you don't want.
Ooh, okay.
Don't look at what you don't want. What's the saying? Where attention goes, energy flows.
Mm-hmm.
So in Amber world, we are all happy. We're all abundant. We're all safe. We're all financially free. We're all love, light, rainbows, milk, and honey. And that's just and I keep saying Amber world, but that's all I want to see. That's all I want to feel.
That's on Mary Had a Little Lamb, because right, that's it. Point, well, that's it. Like there's no, and I love that though, because Black joy is a form of Black revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, we know that our existence is hard because of systematic oppression and racism, but yes, it's our choice to be like, is that what's going to be highlighted? Is that what's going to be shown? And I love the fact that you're choosing to be intentional about the space that you want to operate in is to show that aspect of our experience and understanding, no, it's not the totality of our experience, but that is what I want to highlight.
And that's pretty much. And I think that's also just the essence of who I am. For the most part, I realize I am a bubbly person. I tell people to describe my personality. Remember, Freddie from A Different World.
Freddie Brooks.
Like if you look at my office, the plants, my crystals are over there. I'm a tree hugger. My incense is burning over there. Like,
and here come my Whitley Gilbert ass, like wearing jeans with a fur coat, walking out like, hey.
There's beauty in owning who you are at that moment, because we're all evolving. And so I am, I'm 38. Listen, I'm 38. I have learned that I hate to say perfectly imperfect, because we're perfect. We're perfect now, because when we change, we're going to be perfect tomorrow. And then we're going to be perfect when we change 3 months from now. We're perfect in this moment. And that's just, yellow is my favorite color. It's a happy color. It's a happy color. And I am no longer, this is for me, and I'm not knocking our Black community, but I am so tired of seeing, and a lot of us still selling the struggle. I'm tired. All my life I had to fight. We're going to make it to the mountaintop one day.
Run, Harold, run.
Yes. Yes. And this is just me personally. That's why you see happy people. I am starting to I'm starting to get more clients that are not Black. And I am learning too, we have a human problem.
We do.
Because depression and mental illness and sickness is not based on on what race we are.
No.
But also, guess what? Joy, wealth, happiness is also not based on what race we are.
Racism is a tactic. It's not, and And it is a mental sickness. It is a taught mental sickness passed down. It's effective as all hell, don't get me wrong, but it is taught, passed down. And I think you are expanding and serving as that connector, as that joiner to show those commonalities. Like it's just as simple, or not simple, but it's similar to, I remember what Tanika was doing, where she was just like, it's the same address. But it shows like the worlds apart, but it also shows like our similarities and are we willing to work together? So I think you leveraging this and expanding is beautiful to show those connections. Because at the same time, like, yes, you are super sought after. You're not the Black photographer.
Thank you for saying that, because that's the box I am jumping out of. Right. Yeah. But the reason being, though, but I also respect that everybody has an assignment. The way I look at it is, if you think about a village, right? You have the welder, you have the baker, you have the locksmith, you have the town spiritual advisor, you have, everybody has a role to play. So guess what, though? Especially the millennials and the Gen X, they are on the front line protesting, right? Where I may be just a photographer capturing the story while you are reporting the story, right? You know, then we have some people in office who are creating policies to make sure the story don't happen again. So no role is better than the other. So my role is just to tell the story through my camera. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not knocking those who believe protesting and disrupting people's convenience is beneath me or different or better. I just know my role, and I am happy and okay to be in my role.
Right. Look, Mufasa said it best. We are all connected in the circle of life.
Come on, Mike.
Okay. You can choose not to accept it, but that is the truth of the matter. I have thoroughly enjoyed having this conversation with you. Like, it has set my day up so well. I'm so excited to take it on. I do want to end on asking you this, when it is all said and done, specifically, what is Amber's superpower? Not how you have previously felt defined, not knowing where you're going, you're headed, or just being on that journey. When it's all said and done, what is it that you stand for and that you want people to remember you for?
I realize, and I'm called this by a couple of people, I'm called the community healer. My superpower is healing. Healing. I don't know. I realized last year I am an empath. I think that's why I'm really good at photography and knowing how to capture the moment, because I can just look at somebody's eyes and feel them. And I just happen to know what to say to them, or how to maybe touch their shoulder, or just kind of give them the look to let them know they're not alone. I got you, or what do you need? And so that is healing. Healing people, healing the community is my superpower. And I believe it has absolutely nothing to do with the camera.
Woo, girl. I'm done. We're done. This has been, yes, I made the right decision. I'm like, so she's going to be the first interview.
Your platform, you asked a question, but can I ask you a question?
Oh, sure. Yes, go for it.
What is your superpower?
My superpower, honestly, is to remind people of their worth and to remind people of their power. Robin Williams, I truly believe he says something. It's one of my favorite quotes ever, but he was like, if you have ever truly felt worthless, he was like, you never want somebody else to feel that way. And so for me, if I can help, and it's not even about inspiration or being like, I'm a life coach. I don't feel that way at all. Because I'm very honest about half the time I'm over here just trying to fake it till I make it and just convince myself no, you're good. You're fine. You're okay. But if I can use that honest insight of the good of me, the bad, to help someone realize yo, you can overcome this shit and your voice matters, and can't nobody make you feel less than, then that is really what makes me super, super settled with myself and happy, because I also understand like that's something I have to fight for day in and day out to remind myself of that. Because that's the thing, once you experience trauma, you can unlearn it, but that's a continuous process. It's not like I got a diploma that says this is the day I was permanently freed from this and it's never going to affect me again. It's like you have to work at that happiness and finding it. And so somehow I became the interview, but I do feel like that is my purpose, to remind people of their power and of their voice. And I think, honestly, that's why I enjoy interviewing people so much, because it gives, I'm able to create a safe space for people to be okay with that. Because also think about it, a lot of times people get interviewed because people want to know like just be in your business or know like the branded stuff. But it's like, it's deeper than that. Your brand can fall away, but it's like, I want to know who you are. So it's like, also you can remind yourself, on this date, I was doing this, that, and the third, and I'm okay with that. So.
Well, the reason I asked is because I know a lot of us want to know more about you. I am fan of yours because, first of all, you exude so much femininity and like you just ooze of it. And this is a woman, and this comes from a woman.
I'm a thug. Okay, I know.
I am learning to operate back in my femininity, because a lot of us women who are bosses or single mothers or single, we don't even realize we operate in masculine energy because we're always trying to fix it, solve problems and stuff like that. And just by what you post, you're a teacher. You exude such femininity. You are teaching the community about these iconic people, especially in Chicago. And I just want to say we would love to hear more about the woman behind putting other people in the forefront. So I challenge you to hear more, for us to hear more about you.
I receive that, and I do feel like it is okay, God, fine. Like, I cannot tell you how much everyone says that. And that's the thing, like I'm an extremely private person. But yeah, I do understand, like, I have to walk that walk as well. This has been such an empowering conversation for me. Love you down. If there's any ways that I can support you, you let me know, love.
Just want to say I'm proud of you. I'm really excited for you. I'm going to be lighting a fire up under your ass, looking for every time you post a series and an episode, because we ain't quitting no more. So I'm excited to see season 3. I'm excited to see the guests you're going to have on. And this is just the beginning for you.
Thank you, love, so much.
It's always joy, it's always good, it's always chosen, it's always chosen, and always black. Always black, always black.